Okay.
Right, hold on. I'm sorry. I tried to rule Earth. They'd be lucky to have you. I'm sorry about that thing with the Tesseract. I just couldn't help myself. I'm a trickster. Yes, just so mischievous. Sorry about that time I turned you into a frog. It's a wonderful joke. Build a statue for me. Big statue for you. With my helmet on. With the big bendy horns. I will tell Father what you did here today. I didn't do it for him.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the season finale of Loki, the spoilers review for the season finale of Loki. I am the podcaster of mischief, one of the Pew Boys, Trask Snail, and I'm joined by my fellow Pew Boy.
Yes, I am the other Pew Boy, your friendly neighborhood caster, Kirklin Patzer.
And finally,
I'm the Nexus event, Taylor Field.
so next is event Taylor Field, get us right into, because I feel like we have a lot to discuss tonight. So let's get these nice plugs out of the way and let's talk some Loki.
Ladies and gentlemen, you can find us via internet connection in the search bar. GeekVerse.ca is our home base. GeekVerseCast is our Twitter, and GeekVerse is our Facebook.
You sound like me.
Hell yes.
Hell yes. Oh wow, he usually always throws the Patreon. I had a perfect segue to it.
that
and he
was
didn't this time.
really? I thought I screwed up my pitch.
Fuck
so
the
just take it
Patreon,
away.
says Taylor Field.
Yeah, no more. I'm not pitching it anymore. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, if you want episodes like this ad-free, early, or the exclusive episodes, head over to Patreon and support us there. A big show. We have a new patron named April who sent us a very, very nice message. Thank you very much. And also, Marcus, we talked about last time. Luckily, you know what? We have lately like some 5 stars and people join Patreon. You guys are just not only just supporting us, you're sending very nice messages. So we thank you very much for that. We're going to talk more about it in the newscast, but we notice and it means a lot just as far as working hard. So you can go over there and get a whole bevy of tiers and entertainment and whatnot. Right now, After 9 is scheduled for Sunday, July 18th, right? That's the Sunday. I keep screwing this up, but that's the Sunday. If you join the Phase 2 tier, you can call in. We haven't done one in a while, so it's going to be fun. I guarantee you we're going to be talking about Loki. We're going to talk Black Widow, and I have some hot takes I want to discuss with Kirk and Patzer as far as music goes, so we'll do that. As I just mentioned, check out our Black Widow review. Thank you, everyone checked out that. It's done very well. Check out all our podcast feeds. We have 4. We have the main one that has every single episode. We have the reviews feed, which has been killing it lately. So thank you for that. The news one and the retrospective, so you don't miss anything happening this weekend. We got reviews for Gunpowder Milkshake, Fear Street Part 3, Space Jam coming up. We're recording our 6th year. So go to Facebook or Twitter. The pin post is the post as far as send us any questions about movie, video games, TV, personal, and we will answer them for the 6-year celebration. That's going to come out later on, but we're recording early. If you like what we do, but you can't support us on Patreon, please head over to Apple Podcasts and give us a 5-star written review. Check out the Podcast Network, Geek Ultimate Alliance, 7 days a week, 9 shows. Very interested to see what Marvel Alliance is going to have to say about this episode, but I think that is everything. Just follow us on social media, like Taylor said, because you can find out when we're going live and what's happening. So I see the chat go. I've seen a lot of that's all I see on Twitter right now is holy shit, holy fucking shit. You know, it's a big night when the Fractured Wolf is there, and I like that Taylor's just asking you okay there. You know, so ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to start because I never do. And the only reason I'm starting is because if you don't know, we'll start off with a quick non-spoilers, take an ad break and spoilers. I don't have much to say because I feel like anything I could say, like even if I compare it to things, I feel like I could be spoiling something. And I know most people that are listening to this probably haven't or have watched the episode. I will just say what MCU does the best is in this episode from start to finish. I think this carried over great from last week as far as I was on edge of my seat for the last 15 minutes, and I was on the edge of my seat the entire episodes. There's twists, there's turns, there's reveals, there's moments that echo the other like Marvel movies, but it doesn't feel like, in my opinion, what happened with Black Widow, where it was like a lesser than. It feels like, oh, we've seen something similar, but there's a whole new rendition and a whole new stretch on it, and it just left us in such an interesting place. And I will just say this, that if they've talked about before that these shows mean something towards the movies, we've said this before, like, okay, yeah, there's gonna be stuff in Falcon, of course he's Captain America now, Juan is going to Doctor Strange, stuff like that, but I feel like this was the first one that was a big main event. You do have to see this, and I love that. I just think they went balls to the wall, and again, I think they did a great job. Again, people in the comments, we will address all your questions and comments once we get on the spoilers, because I don't want to say anything just in case, but yes, I think they hit a home run, and for myself, who was disappointed with Black Widow last week, this just got me got my juices going, and I was not bonered again, and I was very happy with everything. Not just reveals, just like Tom Hiddleston in this episode was a beast. Like his acting, oh my god! Like this is probably his best performance ever. Just this one sole episode, and we've been talking about many times in this series already. So, just I can't say enough about it, and I cannot wait to talk about it. Other Pew Boy, what did you think about the finale of Loki?
Yeah, so just trying to dance around any possible spoiler. I feel like I'll just touch upon like the quality of the show, or like the episode rather, because like there was just so many things that I was just like blown away on. Whether it was, I mean, just we keep shouting out the score. Score is phenomenal in this. There was a few like really cool like cinematography shots that they had in this one that really like just stood out for me compared to just other episodes in this season, and I just was blown away on how just artistic it was, and visually I thought this episode was gorgeous. You mentioned Tom Hiddleston. I 100% agree with you. I was so blown away with how well he did in this episode. I loved him throughout the season, but just this episode alone, I felt like he just cranked it to another level, and I was just so impressed by him. I was just totally like fully engaged in what was going on. Like I was 100% like you. I was just on the edge of my seat for like pretty much this entire episode, and I feel like that's all I can really say without spoilers. But overall, I was really, really happy with this finale, and I think it did what it should have done for a finale of a show like this. And yeah, I'm so excited to dive into it. So without further ado, Taylor Field, the Nexus event himself.
Oh man, I mean, it's no surprise. I mean, this has definitely been my favorite Marvel show of all three. Like I've loved it start to finish now. Like I can say, and it's been amazing. I love everything about it, and I can't wait to go back and rewatch the whole thing in one 6-hour session. Like it's going to be great. And it's the ending that I was not expecting, but at the same time, like I don't even know how to explain the ending. There's, as you said, Travis, like there are so many like things just coming at you that's just kind of keeping you on your toes. So many things that is just you're trying to catch up with and figure out. And 100% the way they closed it out just leaves it on such a high note where if you're going into future MCU content, you got to know what goes down in this scenario, in this show, in this finale, because it has a lot of weight to it. And aside from that, like I just want to know, like the intro, they changed it up from how they did the previous episodes for the intros. And I loved how they just kind of segue it in. It was awesome. It immediately was like, oh, this is different. It's got me excited and pumped up. Like it just, like they knew everyone was excited for this episode, and they one up themselves. So.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to get into it right now. So if you've not seen it, please tune out and definitely go watch it. But I imagine you all have. But just in case you haven't, we're going to take our ad break. We'll be back in a few seconds, and then we're jumping deep dive into spoilers. So no more warnings, no more 10 pads to get you out of here. That will be your last chance. So we'll be right back after this first ad break. All right, so we're here. I don't know. There's so many places to start. Just
start with the big one. Just start with the big one. Kang.
So
himself.
the big one is
now.
Owen Wilson made it back to the TVA, and I was like, "Wow, this happened." Yes. So we talked about this. We talked about this last week, and especially because it's been a journey. I feel like to get to this moment because we got bonered, and that was the big. And we went through weeks of Mephisto, right? And then Falcon Winter Soldier didn't really have that. It was like we knew who the villain was, but from WandaVision, when it had that mystery box, like, okay, that was a little disappointing, and no Mephisto, stuff like that. So this was then all week I had heard, which was so funny because we were talking about check out the GV Discord where you can talk to us and GWA hosts and listeners. And I had thrown out that, oh, what if it's missed minutes? And I remember most people in the chat were like, no, it can't fucking be missed minutes, blah, blah. So when they walked in, missed minutes popped up first thing, I was like, you got to be fucking kidding me. Like, oh, I couldn't. But the thing was, like, all week we've heard, could it be missed minutes? Could it be a Loki variant? Could it be all these things? Could it be Kang? But it was just like, there was this feeling of unknown of like, are they really going to do it? Are they going to, because they've said they are, and I trust Feige, but still there's a difference between being real and then real. And this was them pulling that lever down. And man, when that elevator opened up, I literally stood up with my arms raised and I just
Pants
said,
off.
fuck. Yeah, no, I had the pants on this time. Luckily, the house is a little cool, but I just said, fuck yes, because this is just phenomenal. This is, and we'll get into it how I think they work as like you could still skip the show, but I don't think you really need, like, I still think it's going to be vital viewing, but I'm just so happy they pulled this, and I think they pulled it off in a really clever way as well. This is like, and we're going to talk, I think, a lot about these scenes, but this is giving us a version of Kang, but I don't think it's going to be the Kang that we come to fear. And I think that's the smartest thing that they did as far as like, because when they did show him, I'm like, from what I've read of Kang, a lot more serious, a lot more to the point. So I was like, okay, this is a different take. But once we get the episode going, it's like, oh, this is what they're doing with the character. And I thought it was brilliant. And we'll talk about all the specifics. But yeah, Kirklin, how did you feel in that elevator open up? And Mr. Jonathan Majors, freshly nominated to the Emmy, Jonathan Majors, just today, he was there. He's going to be an Ant-Man. He was cast a long time ago. And I will give credit to Brent. He told me, it's like, well, he was cast a long time ago, and Ant-Man and the Wasp is like just starting filming now. So there might have been a reason for that. And apparently there was a reason for that because he was behind it all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you were mentioning like just him like just talking to them and stuff. You're like, oh, this is an interesting take. I feel like that's putting it kindly. Honestly, I was really like upset just with like what he was, because I thought this was just going to be like the one like, you know, version of him. Obviously that was revealed later in the episode what it was going to be, but no, I was 100% with you just because I knew of like the Jonathan Majors like casting, so I figured that like as soon as the elevator opened, that's just who I assumed it was, even though I mean they don't even say Kang in this entire episode, but like as soon as I saw him, I knew what it was. Yeah, exactly. And then obviously when he says the Conqueror, it just kind of solidified it there. But yeah, like just his overall just mannerisms and the way he was talking, and he was just very goofy, and I don't really know anything about Kang the Conqueror, but that is just not what I was expecting. So it honestly like kind of threw me off, and I'm like, oh no, like is this supposed to be the new Thanos? And I'm like, I'm supposed to be fearing this guy. And then obviously once they got into the dialogue of like just like tons of different versions of him, and then like just like I don't know how ominous it was, like him talking about how like evil this could actually be, and like my mind just got racing on the possibilities of what this could like have further down the line, whether it's like a big Avengers event or if it is just like Multiverse of Madness, or you know, like I feel like he's going to be a multi-movie villain, especially if he's popping off in Ant-Man. I can't imagine they just show him in Ant-Man and then kill him off right then and there. I feel like he's going to be a big bad for you know a couple different like movies or whatnot. But I was just so it was so funny, like the flip of being like, oh no, like I like this is like a kind of a boner moment, honestly, because I'm like, is this actually what his mannerisms are going to be like? But then once they were just talking about the different versions, I was just so game for it. I'm like, I am so excited for this. I'm so excited to see not only just like a different version of him, but to also see Jonathan Majors act like in different ways, whether it is like a more kooky, you know, this version where like he's going to be coming out just all serious and super menacing. Like, I'm just so excited to see like the layers of what this actor can bring to the role. And I am just so excited to see more of it.
Phil, what do you think?
Oh, I mean, yeah, I won't lie. When Miss Minutes popped up, I thought, oh shit, I'm retiring. But I think that it was a good segue because I mean, again, Kang the Conqueror, this guy, this variant of Kang, he controlled the TVA, so it makes sense. Miss Minutes would be his go-to henchman, kind of back and forth, kind of correspondent between the TVA and himself, right? Where he's hiding out, so it works. And him just popping up in the elevator, I was like, holy shit, that's it. Holy shit, that's it.
Yeah,
he's out. That was like that was my last prediction that I was hoping would happen in this show. It was like Kang the Conqueror, put him in here. But how they turn that around, how they have it set up where, okay, this is just a variant who's controlling its flow of time, and that we're going to be dealing with another one that is the true villain. I love that setup. That's good. And I like the hairs are going up on the back of my neck
Oh,
because
100%. Yeah.
when he's talking about how there were some in this that started this multiverse war that were like, they were not as pure of heart as the rest of us were. Like, I was getting goosebumps. I was thinking, holy shit, like this is crazy.
It's scary. Yeah.
It is very scary. And it was getting intense. That even though it was a very long moment of dialogue between the Lokis and Kang, I didn't mind it at all. I was so content with it because I was trying to like see what was going on, and I love seeing how this Kang was like borderline insane to a degree, like a little bit like wacky.
100%. It's like he's been there for too long. Like,
yeah, exactly. And I love that. And again, when his mind just like snaps and changes when he can't predict what was going to happen in the future anymore, and like he can't even count the seconds properly, and just the rifts start breaking off from all the Nexus events. Like it was so awesome. And yeah, like I don't know what else to say. Just I'm so excited for how he's going to come back.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on kind of like what we were talking about before as far as this, how he was playing Kang, right? And yeah, very goofy, very kind of, but I think as the layers peeled back, it was, like I said, sad. Like it was sad when he's like, well, either you two can take over and I'll go like live a life, or you're just going to kill me and I'll just end up back here at some point. And
yeah.
But the thing is, he was all goofy, and this is why I think Jonathan Majors, when he had to get serious, he was. But when he delivered the line, when Sylvie takes a sword and stabs him and says, "I'll see you soon," and he winks at her, that was scary as shit. Of like, because it feels like he knows what, like, because this is like a thing, as people are talking about in the chat, like, yeah, he's not the Conqueror version, but this thing, to me, I take this as like he's the best one as far as just like kind-hearted out of the Kangs, maybe. So the fact that he knows, he even said like, oh yeah, there's some that aren't as pure-hearted as me. I think, yeah, there's other Kangs out there that luckily he was on top of them, but if there's Kangs now that there's no time construction to keep them back, and they are the more vicious, vile, want control in any way possible, and not just like, oh, a timeline, and I'm like, I'm gonna kill you, or like conquer your planet sort of way, like he alluded with the first Kang that he kind of looked, or the first variant of himself. That, to me, that line is going to stick with me. I think Majors just delivered it great. And I think that, like I said, there's a few moments where he's only serious, but I think it's also smart because then when we get Kang, like what he sees in the statue, Loki, it's going to feel almost like a different character, but still has that base of it. And we also know, too, because Kang's been like this before, he's like a Thanos. He's not completely all bad and all good. So seeing this version of Kang also shows that he's going to be a villain where there's still probably something inside him that could be good or could be turned maybe, but it might be too far gone by the time we meet the Conqueror version, right? And I think it's so clever because, yeah, technically this guy's not going to be in the movies, but Kang is going to be in the movies. And him just talking about many variants, we'll see him in Ant-Man and the Wasp, but does this mean we could see him in a multitude of places? You know, like, is it just and that's, yeah, exactly, different versions. And that's the thing where they always said like Loki had messed with Doctor Strange, but clearly they didn't want to say it messed with Ant-Man because I don't think they wanted to spoil it Majors within here, right? Because technically this show connects to Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, and now Ant-Man. So, and which I think in itself is big because WandaVision was just Doctor Strange, Falcon Winter Soldier is just Captain America 4. This is 3 separate movies, huge profile movies right now that it's connecting to, and that to me is showing the power of what they want to do with Disney Plus. Like, and I'm not expecting every show to be like this, but the fact that it can happen makes me really excited. It's not because I remember Clay asked that question, our patron Clay, not fanboy Clay, a couple weeks ago on the newscast of like he was getting worried that these won't really have a huge impact on the movies, right? Like they'll have a little conjoining and characters, but really you could skip it. Sure, you could skip this one, but I feel like if you literally want to know like why now we know why it wasn't WandaVision, it's this show, why Toby and Andrew, if that's all true, are coming, because Loki, but not our Loki, Sylvie Loki is the one that messed it all up. And I love this idea of it's very much like a Thanos thing. Yeah, he's kind of taking away free will from people, but it's almost in the sense of I'm creating a sacred timeline to keep you from something worse. And already, just even as this character, as he wasn't named, but just like, I don't know, what did Miss Minutes call him?
It was like he who remains. He who remains.
Yeah, so the He Who Remains Kane to me is like the guy who is picked the lesser of two evils, right? It's either the Kangs go rampant and could maybe cause just multiverse destruction, or I create kind of take away free will away, but people get to live a life and can do something. You know, it's a necessary evil, but like I said, it's like the snap thing. But now, knife through the heart, see you soon, and it's going to be pandemonium and whatnot. So did they ever use Kang? No, they didn't ever said Kang, not once in here.
Mhm.
So that's I think that's where he's like, oh, I was a conqueror, I was this and that. So I think that was enough, and this will get, it's the same way as Thanos and Avengers. They never said Thanos, but everyone searched the internet, everyone turned their nerdy friends like, who's that purple guy who smiled weirdly? You know, it's like, oh well, he's Thanos, he's obsessed with the
Hamburglar.
glove. Yeah, which we got an Infinity Gauntlet drop and stuff. And Mr. Mahoning, I saw you earlier, said that you're a big fight episode guy, and this didn't do it for you. And I could see that because 80% of this episode is just these people sitting in a chair and talking. But for me, and I think for you guys too, that we talk about like in episode 3, I could have just watched Loki and Sylvie talk for hours. I don't know if this was the same level of that, but I was never wanting to move on because I was always intrigued what they're talking about, and this felt like a big setup. Then plus when we got that actual fight, to me it's so better than if Kang just popped up and he started fighting everything. I love that this fight of Loki and Sylvie remind me of Civil War between Tony and Cap, where it's like they're both right and they're both wrong, and they both have a reason for, they both know, as Spider-Man says, they both think they're right, and that makes them dangerous. And it was that's where the Tom Hiddleston acting really came in, when he threw down that sword and he just said like, I don't care like what happens, all I want is you. We got the fucking kiss, we got our Raylo kiss.
I was cheering.
Like, I was too. I did the fuck yes again. But the fact that she goes, I'm not you, again, is such great character motivation for her, because she's acknowledging that she does love him too, but revenge is more important than the love, unlike him. And it just, that's where, again, for you, mister, it's like, I get if that wasn't your cup of tea, that's fine. But for me, the whole talking that led up to that fight meant so much more after everything. And I think, again, they knocked that out of the park.
Yeah, I feel like I was kind of surprised, honestly, that they did go for like the more heavy dialogue finale. If I'm just like comparing it to something like WandaVision, even like Falcon Winter Soldier, like that finale was a lot more action heavy, whereas this one, like all the action was just between Loki and Sylvie, which it's definitely not like the best choreography like fight scene that we've got in the MCU, like by far. But I thought just the way it was used in between dialogue in this super like heavy emotional like moment for these two characters. You have He Who Remains, not gonna call him Kang, just like sitting there watching them, like his fate is basically like tied to this whole situation. I just thought it was such a good like mix of all these different elements that were like brought up throughout the show, just combining and clashing. And again, like just like the room that they're in was just gorgeous. I just love the visuals of it. And I really liked how like the fighting, like they would just go back and forth, and then they would just like stop, and then like dialogue, and all of their lines were just like 10 out of 10 lines for me. Like whether it was like you can't trust and I can't be trusted, like all of those little one-liners, like I feel like I could have just taken out like 100 from this episode, and I loved all of it. And it was super like emotionally heavy. I was like, oh my god, one of them could die here. Like I felt like I just had no idea how it was really going to end. And then when the kiss happened, I legit, I was just like cheering. I'm like, fuck yeah, it actually happened. I felt like I always knew it was going to happen, but a part of me was like, it might not. But
none of these people saying like, oh, I don't think it's romantic, was like, no, like I need some proof here, just so like Raylo. And we got, and unlike Raylo, unlike those Lucasfilm cowards, they kept them both alive. So guess what? There's more story to tell between them, because who would have thunk that's such an interesting story now? Fuck you, Lucasfilm. Anyways, I was gonna say that line, like you brought up, the like, you know, you can't trust me and I can't be trusted. This makes me so excited that this guy's writing Doctor Strange, and hopefully this movie happens. This is the same guy that's writing Kevin Feige's Star Wars movie. So this series has made me be like, you know what, Michael Waldron, you got my stamp of approval going for it. Because like, and we've talked about his dialogue before multiple times in the show, but just even the finale he brought again, even like that time when Kang says like, oh, I just paved the road, you guys walk down it, you know. And it was, again, it made it like belittled them so little, but it was like such a big like great line to kind of put everything in perspective. But yeah, Michael, like 100% now I'm really excited for Strange and Star Wars film Feige. I already was, but this is just like proof of like, okay, we got some really great stuff from him, from a writer I didn't really know before because I didn't watch Rick and Morty. So
yeah. One last thing I wanted to mention was, I think it was right before they had the kiss, and then like she kind of like throws him through the temp pad. It wasn't even a temp pad actually, right? It was like his own it was like the original Tempad
Yeah,
scene.
some variation. Yeah.
Yeah. But like right before that moment, and again, just like giving so much credit to Tom Hiddleston, like in this moment, like I can't even place it specifically where it was in the scene, but like he was actually just like crying heavily. Like you just see like tears like dripping down his face, and like he was just selling all of those heavy emotion scene. Like it was so nice to him be the shining star in his finale for his show. You know, like we just did our Black Widow review, and like a running theme on that is like, oh, Yelena just totally stole the show there. But like I'm just so happy that Tom Hiddleston just like delivered and just knocked out of the park, honestly. Like I was just so blown away from his physical, just like his body language, like everything that he did, his line delivery, like his tone of voice, everything was just spectacular. And I was so impressed with Tom Hiddleston in this, honestly.
So we got lots of questions. So Taylor, I'll let you address them just before the chat move. So it's Mr. Annoying. I see now. I figured it out. So what brought Sylvie to making her decision to kill him? I think she did impulsively because what he did to her. I think 100% because I even think after she did it and she saw those timeline branches, I don't know if she regretted it, but it definitely more weighted in. And that's why I loved Loki. He wasn't even trying to stop her. He was just saying, like, let's at least discuss this. You know, like, let's take a minute to talk about it. Because maybe there's a chance that she could have talked him into killing him. I don't think so. But all he wanted to do is let's sit back. And when you're bringing up Kang watching Kirklin, which was great, there's that moment of when he was talking, he stopped. He's like, we've crossed the threshold. So the first time, and he said literally millions of years, it's the first time he hears a lightning strike. And that's the first time he's heard something new because he didn't know it was going to happen. Right. So this fight, everything that's happening for the first time in millions of years, this Kang, he's experiencing something new for the first time. So as far as Sylvie, I think she did want to kill him because she's much like what Loki was talking about when he's like, I've been where you are, don't do it. I feel like she is Loki in Thor, where Thor and Loki, Loki in Thor took over Asgard, right? He tried to kill Thor, his brother. He killed other Asgardians. And I think that's the sense of, especially through this journey of seeing his whole life, he's thought about, man, I did regret doing those things. And in the whole, I wish I could have a do-over. And I think that was him trying to get to her of like, I know the rage you're feeling right now, but just don't go through with it. And maybe we can work this out. But I think she went through with it. And then I do think she will regret it. Because like I said, I think when she saw everything and when she sees everything that does happen, she'll feel regret. And yeah, she did betray him, but I don't think Loki, because I think Fracture World said, well, Loki, yeah, is Loki going to be bitter? I think he'll get it. I think he'll understand because he's done similar things.
He even said that in the line where he's like, I 100% understand what you're going through. Like I was in this situation, not exactly a situation, but like essentially in the same shoes as her. And I think that was the same moment actually when he was just like bawling his eyes out and just being a phenomenal actor.
Off her and he just dropped everything. Yeah.
And again, like just the dialogue was just fucking spectacular. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So Taylor, are you going to address any of those questions as well? But what do you think about the Loki Sylvie face off? Obviously, you know, your girl Sylvie is causing some problems for the multiverse. But hey, if she got us Toby and Andrew, fuck, I'm happy. That's great for me. She gave us a Loki kiss and Toby back. You know, she's coming a top 10 MCU character now. You know.
Yeah, I mean, she is GOAT for sure. Team Sylvie. I think that whole scene. Again, the fight was great. It was so tense. And I love that Tom's Loki he wasn't on the offense. He was just purely just defending himself throughout the entire sequence, which I thought was great. I was concerned because I thought, is he long conning? Is he actually going to be doing something here? But because it is Loki, as he said, like, you can't trust me, and he's can't
a trickster.
He's a trickster. But I'm so happy how it turned out with him after post that fight. But when she whacks that enchantment at him and he disappears and he re-manifests right in front of her with that blade, like going in his, my heart sank right there. Like that was just so powerful.
She shouldn't have taught him those enchantments.
No,
she shouldn't have taught him.
I know.
I did think for a second though, she was going to stab Kang and he was going to appear in front and get stabbed. That's what I thought was going to happen. I literally did. But then he just caught the blade. I'm like, oh no, we're about to lose Tom Hiddleston again. Here we go. But luckily he caught the blade. Still didn't work, but at least he's not dead, you know?
Yeah. Just we finally got the kiss. That was passion. It was good. I was waiting for it. I wanted. I'm glad they didn't hold off till
it was wet.
Like later on, like another season or something. We'll get to that. But I'm just happy that it happened. Like, yeah, it was heated. It was good. And again, even behind, when you like in the blurred background, you could see Kang, like he looked like he was giddy, like he was looking like enjoying it, like oh, this is so romantic. Like, and I know you touched upon that, Kirkland, just how he was like acting in the background, now that he couldn't see or anticipate what was going to happen in time. I thought that was great how he was acting. The actors did a great job with that. But the whole dialogue of that whole sequence of Sylvie just, again, betraying Loki and casting him out, like it just, oh, that's love is like a dagger.
And even then, though, she even says line to him, from her perspective, he's betraying her, because she said last episode, like, you're gonna go in there, you're gonna help me take this person out, right? He said, yeah, of course. So from her perspective, it's like, you literally said you're gonna help me, and now you're stopping me from killing this dude. Like, so from her, like I said, it all like. Like I said, it reminds me of Civil War, of, you know, Cap's protecting his friend, Bucky's on the run, Tony just saw his parents got killed, Black Panther realized what's going on. All these characters' motivations make sense, and I hate to bring down one thing to raise another, but fuck it, I'm gonna do it. This is where I love Thor Ragnarok. It's one of my most rewatchable things.
Oh,
but man,
no, here we go.
Not having a single joke in the middle of the battle or anything like that, it's great. Like, I love it. I always say that MCU does sometimes too much, and that's why I love Civil War, because Endgame has some jokes there. I get it, but for me, I guess I was more fine with that. Even Infinity War, but there's some movies where it does really stick out. But Civil War to me is my favorite, like, climactic battle, because they play it straight. There's no jokes the whole time, and at no point was Loki, Kang. Yeah, Kang was smiling, but it's just more like a character thing, right? They didn't zoom in on him and make it comedic. There was no jokes, there's no puns, nothing. It was dead serious, and again, that makes me excited for Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, because that's a complaint I had the first one, that they would joke and joke and joke. If this guy's writing it, I'm fine with jokes. Even in the climactic battle, like Avengers, I think there's times where it works, but I think you just got to pick and choose. And I think there's times where we've talked about in Thor Ragnarok, where it's just like Loki's getting this redemption, or Odin's dying, and we're getting jokes, and it's just like, like time and place, Taika. Like, same thing. Taika blows up Asgard, and I love Korg, but he makes a joke about it, right? So right where you're like, oh, why the fuck do I care about Asgard? But this was just, it felt like, even for a Disney Plus show, it felt like the stakes were much higher than so much stuff we've seen in the MCU, which is a good thing. Like, that's not saying anything bad. So I cannot wait to see. On the game says surprising she didn't attempt to chant Kang. Again, I don't think she wanted to take over the TVA or take over him. I think she was bloodthirsty. I think Fanboy Clay pointed that out. She was just like, I'm gonna kill this dude. You know, you took my life away. You took the life of many others. I'm taking your life. Yeah, that's simple.
I was gonna say, like, she's literally been waiting since, like, how old was she when she was taken? Like 10 or something? Like, just since that moment, like, this is the only thing that she's known, been on the run. And even like after she stabs Kang, and like, I had subtitles on, so it says like Sylvie crying like underneath, and like, I don't even think that's so much like, oh no, what have I done? It's just like such like a release of like, literally, like, this is been your life's goal, and like, just so many emotions. Like, you just like sent Loki away, you know, you give him a nice passionate kiss, you sent him away, you killed this one guy, like, this was your one goal, and now you just like, it's almost like she doesn't have a purpose. Like,
that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, like, she does have a purpose, but like, in that moment, it's like, okay, now what do I do, right? Like, I just finished my end goal, and I just thought, again, we didn't really get to spend too much time like with Sylvie post stabbing, but I just thought that one little instance of her just like collapsing, of just like so much release in that moment, I thought that was really, really good.
Well, yeah, two things. One, it's like, it's going to be interesting with her, because we're going to talk about what our end credit scene was, as far as what she's going to deal with not having that goal, because her whole life she's had one goal and now it's gone. Where I think that's where she's going to realize that Loki could have been that goal, like, could have been the next step to like, oh, I could build a life, but now like that's kind of gone.
So it's like season 2, she's just like casually like DMs Loki. It's like, hey,
you still the
sorry
TVA?
about sorry about that. I had some time to think, and I think you might have been right.
So about last night, on the game, he wanted to clarify, not take over TVA, but to try and vet in if he was lying. True, it could be, but at the same point, it's tough, because you could be right. Maybe she's just going to chant him and get all the truth. I still go with the, like, she's just bloodthirsty. She doesn't care what the truth is, because at the end of the day, even if he's lying now or telling the truth, he still took her when she was 10, right? She still missed out a whole life. So no matter what his motive is, she still got fucked in the end by Kang. So it's like, yeah, I'm still thinking about it, but it's a good point. She could have seen he's bullshit. But again, it's like Tony, at the end of the day, I've always pitched that, like, I agree with Tony's actions, but he should have been smart enough to figure out, like, Bucky didn't do this. Hydra took his mind over, and he does later on realize, like, yeah, it wasn't Bucky, it was Hydra. Bucky had no control over his body, but in that moment, Tony, like a motherfucker, was gonna kill Bucky. Like, he was gonna destroy his spine. Same thing, people get mad, but Infinity War and Star-Lord, right? Sure, they almost had the glove off, but the second he found out Gamora was dead, he was beating that hamburger to pieces. Man. Yeah. And they said over. That, and people I know always get mad at Star-Lord, but they set that up in Guardians of the Galaxy 2 is right when Ego says, "Oh, I killed your mom." The first thing Star-Lord does is take a gun and shoots him in the head. Now, he's a planet who absorbs the bullet, but that's why I like with this show, they had set up these characters, all the motivations and their actions made sense. So let's take another ad break because we got lots to talk about. We got Ravonna, we got Mobius, and we got an end credit scene to talk about. So we'll be right back. So we're back. So Taylor, I know we touched upon a lot of stuff there. Was there anything we touched upon that you wanted to get in there?
I want to talk about it. So that's that scene behind Kang. Like I loved how it showed like the branch and it showed everything breaking apart, like the real life version of what the TVA could see. I took a screenshot of it because did you guys see?
You saw Toby?
No. I saw
the multiverse. Oh, come on. So for the audio listeners, Taylor has taken Ghost Rider and photoshopped him onto the branch.
Oh my god. That's so amazing. I was
You're
like,
gonna have to
okay,
post that in a few days.
Yeah, I'm excited to see like zoomed in what you found in this one image. No, right there. How did I miss that?
So I don't know, Fracture Wolf. I'll say this because let's talk about this now, and we got a whole bunch to talk about. But he says end credits. You just mean the ending, eh? Yes, I don't know if you watched the very end, but this is the first time ever for the MCU. Now we get to the end credits. It has the Loki laughs in file, and then a stamp comes down, and it says Loki will return in season 2. So we've heard rumors of other shows, but this is the very first MCU to get a confirmed season 2. I think we had talked about that, as I feel like there was just, especially with this episode, there's lots of branches left over, no pun intended. But hey, if we got the same writer back, we got the cast and crew back, fuck yeah. This to me has been not only just the best show, but one of the best MCU things in general. Very excited. And I don't know what there's so many ways they could go. They could go from he's just trying to find Sylvie. They could go from he's trying to get to the main timeline to warn the Avengers. Like, man, I want that end credit in Thor: Love and Thunder of like a tempad opening up and Thor, like Loki walking in and see, like, I need to talk to you, brother. Like I don't know what it could be. Like, there's so many potential routes he could go. I think there's just routes of fun adventures with him, Mobius, and B15. I think your name is right, B15, Hunter B15. Of like them on adventures, whether they gotta fix branches or whatever the hijinks. Like, and I saw a lot of people trashing Renslayer of like, oh, she's the worst character show. I will agree that she's worst character show, but I'm not as negative on her as some people are in the chat. I just think that she is confused, and I think she doesn't know that she literally said she's going to go find free will. I think she was a character that was mostly used for exposition, but with her connection with Mobius and her alive, I feel like there's going to be more. So was she the weaker one? Sure, but I still liked all her motivations. I still like that she's been doing this her whole life, but she's still even unsure. So I'm excited to see where her to go. So Taylor Field, you got that ET finger up. Taylor Field, GeekVerse podcast. Show your true quality with a good question here.
You mentioned Loki in season 2 going on adventures like Mobius and B52 or whatnot, and now I can't 15. Remember her name. 15.
Her number is going to be changing.
Your quality's gone. You had a chance, show. Okay, Kirklin Patrick.
So the interesting thing about that is whatever TVA Loki went to, it's not the same Mobius, which I think is the most exciting thing. And again, if you don't believe me, go back and rewatch it. The Mobius, the last time we see him with B15 looking at the TVA screens, his tie and his collar's all unbuttoned, but the new one he sees, it's all like fresh, clean, buttoned up. And again, that's what he's saying. Like, what division are you from? Like, what's your name? Like, and that's even weirder. Like, it's like a Matt Damon Planet of the Apes. You get back and you see like the statue.
Okay, first of all, I was two things that
Matt Damon.
Yes. Mark Wahlberg is
right. I got Matt Damon variant of the brain.
Two other things. Yeah, the tree that would have been hype if it was Mobius was played by Matt Damon. But like two things. Fuck you for not using. I had the exact same thought that was like Planet of the Apes, but fuck you for not using the original, the classic. like after 9, we literally say that's the madhouse. I took that from Planet of the Apes. I'm like, it's a madhouse. You didn't take the classic Charlton Heston seeing the Empire State Building and being like, man, this has been Earth the whole time. You use no Mark Wahlberg landing on Earth, seeing Abraham Lincoln as a monkey, but that's fine. That shows one day. I cannot wait to do Planet of the Apes retro. But yes, you're 100% right. It was like that oh shit moment. Everything has changed, and it's just like, so does that mean he is in a different timeline and our Mobius is still out there, or has this Mobius like had his not his mind wiped, but it's just like he's meeting at a certain time where none of this happened? It's like, man, and I feel so bad for Loki when he just looks and he sees that statue and it's of a Jonathan Majors, and it's just like, it's the impending doom. I love that Infinity War ended with that ship, Thor Ragnarok ended with that ship coming up, and he's like the first one with Thor to know, oh, Thanos is really here. And again, he's like the first one to be like, fuck, Kang's coming.
Yeah.
Like what? Like every time there's a big bad, he's the guy who's like, oh shit. And man, and now this is a Loki and other characters that we don't have an end timeline. We know he doesn't end at Thanos choking him out. So
yeah.
My complaints at the very first episode review, and I worried when I said, that's kind of lame. I don't know if I want branches and prunings just be so easy with timeline. They set up perfectly as like, that's why we can do Multiverse of Madness, Toby and all this stuff, because now it's going buck wild.
Yeah, first of all, when that happened, I was like, oh, I'm so excited to see Mobius back with Loki. And then when like Mobius just like reacts at him, and like he doesn't say like, who are you right away. He's like asking him a question. I can't remember the specific dialogue there, but I'm like,
he was just like, what are you doing here? And it's like,
yeah,
okay, that seems all right. Like,
I'm like, this is a weird reaction. You think you'd like give him a hug. Like, I'm glad you survived it, And then like when it actually like happened, I literally had just I have goosebumps talking about it right now. Like it was so eerie and just so like, holy shit, this is like a Twilight Zone episode. Great reference with the Planet of the Apes. That's like exactly what it was.
Which one? Which one was the good reference?
The original. The Matt Damon one, the trickster.
I'm a trickster. Look at these monkeys.
But
I want to throw this to you, Fanboy Clay says I thought the TVA was out of the timeline though. I think the problem is with this getting messed up, lots of the rules we learned will be changed up now, because they were out of the timeline with the all-knowing Kang. Now we got the fucking dictator conquer Kang.
Yeah, because I mean, like, that's the question is like, when they had just the one timeline, like, was it all just contained, and now that it's shattered, like, just the rules got changed? Like, is there just actually different TVAs now? I mean, we'll have to watch the next season or just the future shows to really know all about that. But just it like, my prediction, I feel like our Mobius definitely is still out there. This is just like a new timeline that Loki kind of got thrown into. I feel like that's where I'm leaning, just because like I feel like it'd be pretty bold to just like, that's the last time we see our Mobius is just getting his ass handed to him by Renslayer, and then like now it's just this version. I feel like we still, because there's some, we'd just be losing that chemistry that we had with Loki and that version of Mobius. So I feel like he's still out there somewhere.
I agree 100%, but I do think that this finale was bold, so I wouldn't put him past him, because there is something super sad about never seeing that Mobius again. Like in like a Planet of the Apes way of like, man, I've been on Earth the whole time. Like if he never, that guy, the first guy that he said it was his friend, he never sees him again. Oof, that's a dagger to the heart. But I agree that I think we will see him. Yeah, surprising we didn't get the dagger, we didn't get the jet ski, but it made sense with this finale being so dark and so like kind of doom and gloom. Like it would have not made sense. Definitely season 2. I hope we see it at some point. But it's gonna, how, and Clay says, how soon do we see season 2? I think probably a year. I think within a year, kind of similar, maybe 2, because I think when December rolls around, they're gonna do their Disney Day investors call, the one where they just throw their big Disney cock and they're like, look at our 20 million Marvel and DC and Star Wars shows, and we bought DC, Batman's coming to the multiverse.
So they show the Jungle Cruise numbers.
yeah. It's so big. Dwayne Johnson's gonna be in Endgame too, but like I think you will get an announcement of. So what? This was fuck, when did this come out? What month? We came out in June. So maybe I could see summer, because right now the shows we know about are She-Hulk and Moon Knight. It sounds like She-Hulk's going to be first, then Moon Knight. So I could see She-Hulk being like what, January, maybe like WandaVision was, and then Moon Knight being kind of Marchish to kind of tie with Doctor Strange, because I feel like Doctor Strange won't be tied to Moon Knight, but it's kind of a darker show, right? So you're kind of going to be in that mood. And Loki, unless there's like scheduling conflicts, because Tom Hiddleston is a bigger star nowadays, I could see it definitely next year. I think sometime in the summertime. What about you, Taylor? When do you think we see a season 2?
I mean, that's a tricky question, because obviously this is overlapping with Bad Batch, but this is the first time Disney Plus has actually bumped the date over to accommodate for the Bad Batch's release date on the Thursday. So now we have to take into account, aside from the Book of Boba Fett, the other Star Wars shows that are possibly coming out in this next year, right? So how will that shift these release dates for these Marvel shows?
I agree with you that it could change, but as right now, the word is that they're going to start being Wednesdays for all of them. But I still think like I guess unless they found a way to plan it that there is going to be like never a Star Wars and Marvel crossover, like of live action. Bad Batch, I think, is a bit different. It doesn't have the same hype clearly. So I feel like let's say Mandalorian season 3 and Loki season 2. I don't think they'd be on at the same time. If they are, same thing. I think you need to separate them. I think the one, for the sake of my podcast life, please do not put them both out on the Tuesday night, because fuck. But like, I think that would eat each other's hype, because no one would know like what to talk about, and then one would get. So I think they either split them, or they always make sure that there's Mando 3 ends, and then Loki picks up like the week after, or maybe you could have like 1 week of crossover. But I don't think too much with the. With those big series. But hey, Star Wars has a lot coming, Marvel has a lot coming, so it's something they definitely have to look at. And I honestly don't think it's a bad thing if they did say like, hey, Loki's on a Wednesday and Mando's on Friday. That I don't think that is, or maybe make Mando on like a Monday or something, because if they have the movies coming on Friday, like I think if they have like a network, you can have multiple days with new content. It doesn't have to all be on fucking Wednesday, just like here's everything, if we get to the point where we're getting 3 or 2 shows at a time. So and then if I look at this, I think we also have to look at what Marvel has planned as far as multiverse. I'm sure Feige is going to make the Loki responsible for end of this crazy event. Well, and that's what's interesting to see. So we have Spider-Man coming up in December, and then we have Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, which I feel like Multiverse of Madness could be the closing of all this. But at the same time, now the show ties to Ant-Man, we have Ant-Man, and Taylor or Kirklin, look up for me, but I believe Ant-Man the Wasp Quantumania is a 2023 film. I don't think it's next year. So that's so that's the only bump in the road that is something if Ant-Man and Wasp happens that like Loki 2 has to go after that. That's the only bump in the road. Now, Loki season 2, though, could be even more set up for Ant-Man and the Wasp, right? It could be kind of like what we're getting right now with Spider-Man and Doctor Strange, that maybe they close the multiverses, but the threat of Kang is still out there. And who knows, Loki season 2 might not even be going after Kang. I feel like you might have to do it just because I feel like it's weird if you end the show with a shot of the evil Kang statue and then they never really touch upon Kang in season 2. Doesn't really work for me. You think so?
Well,
go ahead,
I feel chance to show my quality. I feel like a workaround there though is like obviously you can't just ignore Kang because like that's how it ended with the giant statue of him, but like not necessarily have like our main heroes like interact with maybe like the main version of of Kang, maybe just like deal with the repercussions or maybe a different version of it. Just like let's say Kang the Conqueror is the main boss, maybe it's like a sub little side boss that Loki and whoever his team might be can like tackle in their show. I feel like there's definitely ways that you can have the main Kang the Conqueror in the world without it having to be tied to where he was introduced.
But that's what I mean. Like, I feel like there has to be at least some tie to Kang. It can't just be like, oh, Kang fucked up everything for Loki, and now season 2 is like just him dealing with timeline stuff. I still feel like whether it's Kang or, like you said, a mini boss for Kang, which could be Renslayer again, to be honest. He might recruit her more. True. But like that's what I mean. Like I feel like there has to be some plot ties to Kang. I don't think they could just pick up and move forward because it would feel weird as far as like, yeah, they want to make these things connect to the movie, but they still got to be a little bit to themselves. So if you picked up Loki season 2 and had nothing to do with Kang, you'd go, well, season 1's almost inconsequential. I just feel like too the big setup with him seeing the statue, Mobius not remembering stuff. I think your idea of like different variants or the mini boss is the route, but I feel like you have to have some tie to Kang. And and then they maybe just ultra set him up for Ant-Man the Wasp. Maybe that's when the new Kang, like, I think it would almost be kind of fitting. It'd be sad, but I wonder if Kang the Conqueror would be responsible for Sylvie's death, because she's the one that brought this all upon. And it's like, oh, you know, like, you were the one that killed.
Sense.
Yeah, you were the one that killed the sacred, you know, all-knowing one. Like, and he told you to, you know, I'd see you soon. And well, here I am. Like, so it kind of feels like almost how when Loki in Thor Ragnarok took the Tesseract and then he died from it. I feel like we kind of would get that with Sylvie, as far as, yeah, you fucked everything up. So we're sad that you're we're sad that you're dying, but it's like, it's kind of justified because you made a mess of this.
I can even like picture too. It's just like Kang comes up to her. It's like, oh, you're the direct reason why I'm here. Like, thanks. Do you want to partner up with me? And then she's like, does the exact same scene that Loki had in Infinity War. You know, like pull her dagger, and then she just. Kang just chokes her out. Can you imagine? It's the exact same death scene.
No more resurrections this time. And it's the exact same thing. Loki's crying over this time, and Hulk's just there randomly. It's like, what the fuck? How'd you get here, Hulk? But
I feel like there was another question I saw that I wanted to.
So how about I'll pitch this one right now. Mr. Annoying says, I feel like there's potential for the big bad Kang to be defeated in a movie, and like he said, Loki seems to will have a smaller tie-in. Yeah, but it's tough because I think that he could be defeated in a movie, but that movie, if Loki comes out next year, Kang will still be around after the show because he's an Ant-Man. So that's why, unless Loki is in 2023, then I agree, Mr. Annoying, that okay, yeah, you could beat Kang and then something else tying to him. But if it comes out next year, Kang's gonna have to be alive. And I'm still kind of pitching that I think that Kang is a potential villain for the Avengers. I think he's a villain that could bring them all together. It makes sense for, even if you just watch the Avengers movie, I'll always say the quote, and I think I did this quote when Dylan Briggs talked about like our Phase 4 predictions. Tony Stark in Endgame says, you mess with time and it tends to mess back. And I feel like that's a perfect kind of carry on for Endgame, as far as like, yeah, you like cheated in a way to use time to help you beat Thanos. Now here's the repercussions of it. There's this guy who is like the ultimate time traveler, who like, you guys just figured it out. This guy's known how to do it for fucking generations, you know? And I feel like we always talk about like, how could Captain Marvel be with the team if it's like maybe just like an Ultron threat? She might wipe them out, right? You got someone like this who could bend time. I think he is a big threat, and I kind of want him to carry on and not just be an Ant-Man the Wasp. Yeah, I guess it's Ant-Man the Wasp Quantumania. I don't know, but I'm just very excited for what Majors is going to do. So what do you feel, Taylor, about this business as far as season 2, big bad? Like, is it a Kang tie-in? Do they just kind of mention them, move forward, or is it after Ant-Man the Wasp and we don't have to deal with this?
I think it has to be dealt with because everyone's going to be looking at this and thinking, okay, well, season 2 is going to incorporate Kang and it's going to incorporate Sylvie and these reoccurring characters from the first season. That being said, I feel like I don't want to say like Kang is going to be like a Thanos level threat that they're going to tackle in different mediums, because obviously Thanos appeared in several different MCU projects, again, post-credit scene, all that jazz. So on this front, I think you get Kang in, obviously he's in Ant-Man Quantumania, and it'll be interesting to see how that goes, because that could be like the whole multiverse thing could be dealt with, and Kang could be on the run, and they could just kind of like track him down in there, and they fight him there in Ant-Man Quantumania. I do have a hunch that when we get to Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, that's not wrapping up the problem, and that leads to Quantumania. So I feel like these are all stepping stones in this new arc that they're going to be tackling.
See, one thing I pushed back though when you said like, oh, he might not be the new Thanos because he was sprinkled throughout projects. That's what this could happen with Kang though right now, right? Like he's in this, he's in Ant-Man. He could. I feel like they're going to have to. Like, will they talk about him in Multiverse of Madness? Will there be a mention of him? You know, or is that just not? I feel like they're just dealing with the multiverse stuff, and Kang the Conqueror is still on his way. But I could see him being the end credit of that, like doing a similar Thanos. And here's another question for you, Taylor: is he going to be blue? Like, because Jonathan Majors was not blue, so I wonder if they're not going to use like prosthetics or CGI on him, and he's just going to be, because if you look at Kang the Conqueror, he's like a blue alien. He has like the helmet and everything. I feel like.
His origin is that he's a scientist from the 31st century from Earth, right? That's Kang's origin now.
Well, his original variant, right? So this would be, because like, what version is this? This isn't the original variant, right?
No, the original variant was the one who figured out the time travel. He's the one that Taylor referred back to, like I think the scientists in the 31st century. That's
Oh,
the
okay.
one that was the
Yeah.
OG. Yeah,
Right.
as of right now, what they're pitching.
Right.
Yeah, so I feel like again that's the same. They could make him blue because again, you look at all the different Lokis we have, we see all the different variants.
True.
So they could easily make this new bad one blue, and I wouldn't even bat an eye at questioning how it's possible because they
Yeah,
answered it in the show. So
I
again,
hope
I
so.
think I'd be down for it. I think it'd be cool. So I think that as far as it goes with them having him lead the charge as the main go-to bad guy in this kind of arc, I think I would like it. I think it's a good idea because we've kind of our only movie since Endgame has been featuring Mysterio and then obviously the villains in Black Widow, which were
Before,
not like
right?
before,
And it was before
yeah.
too.
So it's obviously we have Black Widow setting up something of its own, but that ties in again with the other another Disney show. But this is something much more grand, and it's
Yeah.
cool to see again these two parallel storylines that I'm sure will connect at some point. But I feel very much like that won't happen. But um what I'm trying to get at is that okay, we had Falcon and Winter Soldier, we had Black Widow, we had Spider-Man, and we had this kind of like steady trajectory where we weren't sure really what was going to go down in the MCU, and we were just looking forward to the future where we had Doctor Strange, Spider-Man No Way Home, Shang-Chi, all these different films that were kind of building up the hype down the road. And now we're at this point where okay, we finally got a heavy hitter. Now we know that Kang is a big game-changing contender in the MCU right now. It'll be interesting to see, like, is he going to be somehow in the Eternals movie? Like, because obviously he's been there from the beginning. So I'm just curious, from now on, what's he going to be in? Like,
Yeah. Well, like that was another thought I had just when he was talking about the multiverse and all the different variations of himself was, like I mentioned earlier when I was talking about him, how I'm like one thing I'm just super excited to see like Jonathan Majors like portray a different version of Kang and just like seeing what he can do of doing like a completely different version of that same character. And I was just thinking to myself, like, how many versions could he really do? You know, like if they want to just fuck, he would be making big bucks if he's just like getting cast in all these different movies and shows and stuff and just doing different versions of the character. But I think that would just be such an interesting like thing because it's just so new. Like it's like in Endgame and Infinity War, you get two Thanoses, which kind of like behave differently. They've like same goal and like same kind of purpose, but like this is a whole new thing because they're completely different variants. Like we mentioned before, this one was just he was like sculpting the universe for just a little too long. Like he mentioned, like, oh, I'm just old, I'm tired, like I've just been doing this for so long. Whereas I feel like when Kang the Conqueror comes in, which honestly I could totally see him rocking like the classic color tone and everything, and just being like, what is he? He's blue, which is like,
yeah,
I feel like it'll be kind of polished to do a more modern version, kind of like how Thanos looked. Like he looked good.
but we know they like their classic looks, right? We got polished Loki, but then we got classic old Loki, right?
True. Yeah, that is a good point. Okay, maybe I'll take a step back. Maybe I have like that blue version, but just more polished for like our version, and then maybe there's a different variant of like the actual, like whether it's classic Loki was just like the super like pop in colors and everything like that. Like maybe have that as just another like variation of the character. But I feel like the main big bad, because I feel like if they do like those types of color tones for him, I feel like it would just kind of be distracting, especially if this is like a new Avengers level threat. You just have this dude that just looks like I was looking at photos of Kang, like his head just looks so fucking like nerdy. Like it just looks so old school comic booky. It's
they'll
hilarious.
adapt it though. I think he'll be a bit more sleeker and whatnot. But I also don't think the Avengers villain could just be this guy in some robes. You know, like I don't know if that's as intimidating. So we've got Loki, which who had the robes, but he was a god. You had Ultron, evil robot. Then he had Thanos, big purple titan. It was just Jonathan Major in these purple garbs. It's like, sure, maybe he doesn't have to be blue, but they definitely got to get him a cool suit.
Well,
you know,
yeah, I definitely picture him like in I guess at the very beginning of Infinity War, and then in Endgame, like Thanos is wearing like his war armor. I picture like when Kang is beating the shit out of our Avengers to the brink of death, I feel like he'll be rocking some good armor for sure. Yeah. He's got to have a cape. Come on.
And then also, let's see, All in the Game brought up, could he be used as a Fantastic Four film instead of going the Doom route? Well, I have two things on that. Yeah, we've talked about that before, where Kang is related to Mr. Fantastic. So I think that will be touched upon. That's why I don't think Ant-Man and the Wasp will be the end of him, because Fantastic Four happens after. I don't know if he's the same villain in the exact same year, unless Ant-Man and the Wasp, again, maybe he's not the main villain. Maybe they've said he's in the movie. They've never said he is the, like, I think maybe they have. Maybe the summer article says he's the main villain, but there's easy ways you could have another mini boss. You could have him pulling the string stuff. He could be like Thanos in Guardians of the Galaxy, where he's in it, but he was not the main villain, right? He was just the puppeteer. So I think you could say him for Fantastic Four. I think you could easily say him for Avengers and Doom. No, I don't think they're going to go that route first. I believe the rumors. I pitched it a long time ago in Marvel Alliance. I've been pitching it for a while. And now after that, the rumors came out. So hashtag Travis told you if it happens. I think Doom is Black Panther bound. I really do. Now, does Chadwick's passing change that? Maybe. So we'll see. Maybe that's too much for that film now. So, but I'm still holding guard as far as people had rumored that might happen. I feel like you can hold off on Fantastic Four and Doom because that was done twice, aka 3 times, not to the greatest. So I feel like you could wait now. So let's see.
You think we would get? You think we would get 2 heavy hitter villains at the same, like in the same Phase 4? Because Doom is pretty big in terms of hitters.
I think Doom might just be Victor Von. Well, yeah, I guess Black Panther is next year, but I think he'll just be Victor Von Doom. I could see him not being Doctor Doom yet, as he could just be Victor, the philanthropist, the billionaire. Maybe he has some ties to Wakanda. Maybe he's pulling the strings like Lex Luthor style in BVS, something like that. That's what I think. It won't be full on like I'm here and I'm gonna take over Wakanda. He'll just be in the shadows or something, because he's from Latveria, right? So maybe he has something to do with, well, Wakanda revealed itself. Is that a good thing, bad thing? Maybe there's like a UN meeting and he's representing Latveria, and that's the only scene. I think we will meet him, but he won't be the big baddie yet. I don't think. I think they'll wait on that. So
that'd be really cool, actually, if they did like show off Latveria, because it's just Wakanda was in hiding. Who's to say there's not more like different societies like that? And that would just be. That'd be crazy, honestly, because then you could really take the time to like sculpt Doom into the super big bad, and then even introduce him as a semi-likable character, and like maybe he's helping people out, but then you get that end credit scene where he's got his nefarious ways, sinister plans.
It has to be green. The suit has to be green. All right, Victor. Family makes a good point too, and he says there has to be 2 things we look forward to: end credits with Val and now Kang. And I think I agree, because it seems like the human shows right now, we got Falcon Winter Soldier and then Black Widow, had Val. The track is something with, they won't drop the word Thunderbolts yet, but something with that. Hey, they didn't drop the word Kang tonight, but we know what's coming. Same thing. They're not saying the word Thunderbolts, but maybe it's something like that. So maybe our Earth heroes are like that, or a Young Avengers, where now the other movies, multiverse movies, time travel seem to be like, okay, they're dealing with this guy who is has very many evil variants. So yeah, I think that's cool. I don't think there has to be one big crossover yet. I don't see Yelena and Hawkeye joining the time traveling fray just yet. It could happen. They all did that in Endgame, but I feel like there's 2 tracks right now. I think they are waiting a bit till they do their big crossover movie again, as far as like a huge Avengers level thing. So I'm trying to think of anything else you guys want to go that we haven't touched upon. I'm sure there is, but
I was gonna go Renslayer here.
Well, before you go there, let's take our last ad break, because after this we'll get some last points, and we have to rank this season, or rate at least. So we'll be right back after this. All right, Kirklin, you're here to talk about your favorite character, Renslayer, right?
Not my favorite character. Probably my least favorite character, actually, in this entire show. Clay mentioned it a little while back, how like I felt like I wanted to understand like her point of view, but it was just so disjointed for me personally, and I just really felt like her motivations were just really weak. Like it's one thing to just blindly follow something, but like there was moments where I felt like she was so like, okay, no, like TVA is gone to shambles. Like even when she was like revealed to not actually know that the timekeepers like were fake, like she was kind of surprised in that moment. And then you get that instance of like, okay, maybe she is going to pair up with Sylvie, and then this might be an interesting dynamic. And then she all of a sudden, like, she just instantly like betrays Sylvie, and like is just being the new tyrant, where it seems like she's just like listening to Miss Minutes at that instance, even though she's still referring to like another person that is actually running the show. But I felt like even like in this episode, Miss Minutes is I think she's like uploading files or something.
She's giving them to Renslayer.
Mhm.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. So like, and then I think that's where Renslayer like poses the question, something just like about who he is, and then like Miss Minutes just kind of like dances around the subject. And
I thought she knew because she made it out like, how's this supposed to help me? And Miss Minutes was like, oh, like she instilled like, oh, he just says like, yeah, it's supposed
He
to help
wants you to
or
have
whatever.
this, or he thinks it will. So that's where I still think, well, you talk about she could be a mini boss that, because it's interesting, because it like, who's he? Is it the Renslayer, or was it the all knowing, all that remains Kang, and he sent that to her, or is it somehow a different Kang already that she's gonna link up with? So it's interesting to know who the he and what is the info she got.
I feel like I have a hard time believing that it would be a different Kang, just because I feel like if this Kang really like got all the other Kangs in a full Nelson, and he's just like rocking the sacred timeline, like they just wouldn't even be sort of in existence at that point, because it's just, this is the main timeline, and then maybe when it breaks, things will happen there that change it. And Travis, you mentioned this earlier, like she's definitely leading into something else, and now that we know there's a season 2, like they'll definitely, I mean, hopefully just clarify some things with that character. But if I'm just looking at it from like one season point of view, like the first season, I just really didn't like the use of the character, because I think there was a lot stuff there, whether it was her dynamic with Mobius, that had a lot of like substance and like a lot of potential to like build upon that. But just like the way that she just like betrayed him right away, and then like when they like were interfacing in that room, and like there was some good moments when she was just like, no, like you fucking betrayed me. Like sure, like all this has been going on, but like we literally were friends for like millions upon millions of years, even though that was a lie from the beginning. So like in that moment, there was some glimpses of gold, in my opinion. But I just think the overall usage of that character was just not to my liking. And who knows, maybe season 2 will come out and I'll look back on it and be like, okay, this actually planted the seeds for something that grew to something really good in season 2. But until I see that, I can only go off what I've seen, and I'm just not my favorite for sure.
Yeah, no, it's fair enough. I guess I'm giving it a pass, because now if we didn't know we had season 2, I'd be like, oh, I don't know. But the fact that they're like, boom, season 2, clearly they're doing it in a much more like TV way of like, we're going to leave some stuff open for next year. So I agree it was the weakest part of the show, but I guess for me, somehow it just wasn't weak enough for me to really distaste it, because I liked that thing at the end. Because even if we never saw the character again, there was all this talk about free will and whatnot, and she said, I'm going to go find free will. So again, it's implying almost that maybe she is going to try and find her own route out there. So I like that she's a little up in the air, but I'm not going to fight people if they didn't like the character or say a week. I get that, but just definitely didn't hit me too hard, where I guess because all the other stuff was so good. It's like, yeah, okay, that could have been better, but oh well, I move on, and then we're back to it. So do you have anything on Renslayer there, Taylor?
I mean, I'm glad we got like a little bit of like closure between her character and Mobius. I think that was definitely needed. And I was very much into that whole sequence of him just kind of like giving her shit and how that turned out. But I am intrigued where that's going and where she went, because
go ahead.
I was just going to say, if it was the Kang that we got to see in this episode giving her these instructions, which I'm confident it was, because Miss Minutes came from there, I'm assuming. So does that mean he obviously anticipated his death would happen and had to give one last command to her to execute something or whatnot? I'm not sure, but say your point. I'll go after.
Oh, well, no, because Clay says, like, and this was the line she says about, like, she tells Mobius that she wants free will, and that's the person that controls everything. So she told him she's looking for free will. She's looking to control the TVA. I disagree, because the TVA is blowing the fuck up right now. Like, they're literally looking at those branches. They're like, we don't even know where to start. What would we do? So that's where I disagree there, where I don't think it is free will right now. I think it's her having to clean up a lot of messes. And again, it might just be like TVA might be the first stop for this fucking war place to take place and like kill everybody, you know? So I think TVA before, if Sylvie didn't kill him, sure, then I'd say TVA is his place to be. But with it going awry and everything like branching off, no, I don't think that's where you want to be, especially for power. I think there might be, and if it's like her finding the actual Kang, like, and maybe this Kang knows that there is in the past some sort of relationship, because in the comics they are tied, they've been lovers, husband and wife. So maybe he knows that, and maybe she's gonna go find a variant of Kang, and that's how it's gonna start. So I think whoever Kang is more powerful than what the TVA is, and I think that's what the information will have to do with, is her meeting another variant of a Kang or something. But it's gonna be interesting. We'll see. It could be kind of go any way. It could be disappointing, but it's definitely left open. So
I just want to pinpoint, I really like how Mobius and B-15 were converting the other TVA agents to see, like, this is the truth. Like, here's your Renslayer. Like, she's a teacher. let me give you all this information. I thought
that was
very
clever. Yeah. Let's see. And then Clay responds with, but all she knows that she's looking to put it back in order control, which kind of makes her a mustache twirly revealing. Yeah, maybe. I think that's where it's tough, because you're saying that like these are her motivations, but then also saying like, oh, they're unclear. So I think much like the character, whether it's weak writing or just the character in general, the way I just take is she is like literally jumping from spot to spot because she has no fucking idea what to do, because she like, when we got revealed a few weeks ago that she didn't even know who was behind the TVA, I think that was a clear sign of, oh man, she's even on the back pedal. It would have been different if she knew the TVA was a lie and she knew about Kang, knew everything. But the fact that she's still trying to figure out stuff, that's why I kind of give the character leeway, because you wouldn't make rash decisions that choice. Like Sylvie's not even making rash decisions, and she knows a few more things. So we'll see. We'll see where it goes. So anything else in particular?
With Renslayer, not really.
Or just anything in general. I want to say, actually, before I forget, because you guys have to talk about it, I knew this episode was going to be a banger when the Marvel Studio credits open with the Captain America and Peggy song, and then we're getting all quotes from MCU and WandaVision, everything like that.
Even more than that, there was like a Nelson Mandela like quote, and I only knew that because I had my subtitles on, so it said like, so it like I think like that was just showing all of this is in this sacred timeline, like you know, our world mixing with Earth 616 like MCU. So I thought that was just a fun little detail. I'm sure there's even more real world quotes. Maybe you had the JFK line that Travis could probably kill.
We are going to go to the moon and find where the white vision is. He blasted off and we haven't seen him since. This cannot stand. American people.
Yeah, no, I was gonna mention that too. I loved that like intro, and this was the first one that had the Marvel banner, right? Or am I totally mistaken?
No, they've all had the Marvel banner.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, like that, I knew shit was getting real, and like there was no real like scene before the Loki sign came on. I'm like, okay, we're just getting all this out of it. We're just getting right into the meat and potatoes here. There's no appetizers, and I was all for it. I thought it was such a good like entrance to the finale.
It's funny that you mentioned that. I saw this, I can't remember if I shared this meme earlier, but it's like Marvel does two kinds of shows: the trippy one where you can watch while you're stoned, and the other one with hats. I'm like, it's totally true. And that's how this started. We were going through multiple universes, like.
Anything else in general? I think I've hit all my notes and talking points. Talk about Mobius, talk about timelines, talked about Kang, talk about Loki, Sylvie, all the stuff. Season 2, which I'm glad we filled in Fracture Wolf, because he said he had missed that part. So that's great. So yeah, if people didn't know right after, there's just like a quick 5-second thing to reveal that season 2 is happening, which I think that's a very fun way to do it as well too. I guess we didn't even say that. Like, I like that. That's clever. And it's like, if you know you're doing a season 2, boom, right there. It's the same as doing so and so will return in blank. So
yeah, I really, really liked it, because me, as well as probably everyone else out there, was like, okay, what are we gonna get for this end credit scene? You know, like something's gonna be tying into the movie somehow. Like this is a major event, and I know what movies are coming down the line. So what are they gonna show that leads us into there? And they didn't even fucking do that. They just like, hey, bastard, you're gonna have to watch next season all this. And I'm like, I was just blown away. Because I like we mentioned, like this is the first MCU show that confirmed season 2 like right away, and it's just so smart to do it, because with Loki not dying in this episode, I'm like, okay, so how is he going to work his way back into maybe our timeline just with like the movies that are coming down the line? But it's perfect because they don't even necessarily have to force him in there, because we know that we're getting a season 2 of this show and just diving more into what's going on in his world. And he's not even in the timeline right now if you're considering TVA being outside of time itself. So I thought it was really creative and really good.
Well, and that's the exciting thing, because like there was talk about, me and Chris talked about some Marvel Alliance, of a Loki season 2 happening, but there was also talks of a Falcon and Winter Soldier season 2 happening, and we've heard nothing about that. Now that could have been talks of actually Captain America 4, and maybe that's it. Maybe we are still getting a second season of that show, but nothing's been said about that. You know, even Captain America 4 is not confirmed. It's just like Big Ten Scooper saying that. So it's cool to see that sometimes that these rumors are true, and it's good to know. I still don't know about WandaVision. It's a miniseries. I think you could get a new show called like Scarlet Witch and Vision or something, but I like knowing that, hey, we got more coming of this. And again, especially after this season, we got more Tom Hiddleston coming, and that's great. That's a character / actor in this role I've not tired on. Like, I still probably could take another 10 years. We get to phase 6 and he's still there, I'll be like happy with it, much like Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. You know, I sure keep doing it. Like, works for me, you know.
Yeah, it totally makes me think back of like just the very beginning of Infinity War, and like even before Infinity War, I feel like we all kind of assumed that Loki was gonna get offed. Yeah, this is it, and it's just like, you know, it was great to see him as Loki, like great casting, but I'm definitely gonna miss him. And like, look at us years later, like years later, and we're still getting more because there's a confirmed season 2. So it's awesome.
And it feels like with what this show did, we haven't even scratched the surface of what they could do with Loki. You know, like that's the thing where it's funny. Like, yeah, you're talking about, we all like, oh, this is his swan song and Infinity War. Here we go. And Mr. Annoying says, I can't wait for Old Man Loki in 10 years going out like Logan. Hey, you never know. I'm down. If Tom wants to keep doing it, which I think he does, he does. So
we already saw Old Man Loki go out, though. I mean,
true, but now it's gonna be Tom's turn.
It's gonna be Tom wearing like that outfit.
Well, yeah. Remember, Taylor, it's a new timeline, right? So we don't know how old Loki's gonna go out now, or classic Loki.
Well, that's what I wanted to touch upon that one more time. So if this is true and there's multiple TVAs working out there, which I understand how I believe Clay mentioned in the comments earlier, how it's supposed to be outside of time. So one TVA. Now, if this is the one TVA that's kind of like readjusted to the change in time, then it's just weird, because then if that's the case and he's saying, what's your name to Loki, and that means none of these Lokis have been pruned, that would mean that technically classic Loki would still be alive. And I know he like Archer Grant was like pitching or talking like rumors like he'd love to do like a classic Loki series, which I'd totally be down for.
Well, to be clear, he said a classic Loki series with the alligator, which is key. You need the alligator. The alligator needs a show. I was really hoping for Loki alligator will return in season 2, you know, Croaky or whatever. Natasha Noel says, why did B-15 go to high school? I'm confused. You probably didn't hear earlier in the review, but she went there to show the other TVA agents. They didn't know that people were variants, so she goes there. You see Renslayer as a teacher. They go, well, how's Renslayer there if she's an agent? Oh, these people aren't lying about her being a variant, which, like we said, very clever way. I thought that was well done. You know, it's just like, okay, that explains all of them. That's an easy way for them all to take it and be like, oh, we have been duped, and now it's probably a very awkward time at the TVA at that timeline. But yeah, so yeah, Taylor, I think the floor is yours for anything else you want to shout before we get to a final rating here. And if not, then lead off to your final rating.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'll go into my final rating. Like this score again, I'm always going to talk about the score. The score was fantastic. I've been listening to the soundtrack non-stop. But the show overall, start to finish, has had me on the edge of my seat. I've loved every single thing about it since they brought in Sylvie. And what's that?
Oh, nothing. I just I wonder what numbers coming here.
Oh, I again, like Sylvie coming in was just such a great twist to it. Getting all the different Loki variants was crazy. It's just so wacky, the fact that we got a Loki war of all these Loki variants. It's just so bonkers. This show did everything that it could do right in so many ways that I just loved. I love the show. I love it. And it's a straight up 10 out of 10 for me. I think it's so quirky and kooky, and it just is right up my alley. It made me go from not, again, like I said before, and I will admit it, like I was never like super on like the Loki bandwagon, but then get into the show. Like this show made me just fall in love with the character. Again, that scene when Sylvie kicks him out through the doorway and he's sitting there and he is just that moment of just silence and he's crying, or not full on crying, but the tears are coming out of his face. Like, holy
He's
shit.
mini crying.
Like it's just the whole start to finish change of Loki's character from being that deceptive guy that we've known in every other film and franchise in the MCU to this. Now he is literally thinking about the greater good. He was generally concerned about just wanting to keep Sylvie alive, and he was worried about the bigger, badder threat that could come through. And now his worst fear came true. And I'm so on board for this. I'm so into the show. I'm gonna rewatch it many, many more times. I can't wait for season 2. Let's fucking do it.
Some rapid fire. Mr. Annoying says 8 alligator Lokis out of 10 alligator Lokis. Amir Singh says, so the multiverse is in chaos now. Absolutely. If you look at the branching, you look at everything out there, I think obviously we literally have a movie coming up, the Multiverse of Madness, right? If those Toby and Andrew rumors are true, there's that. Could be other effects in the MCU that we don't even know about. So yeah, it's a big chaos. And you know what? People have thrown out, oh, Secret War is going to happen. Next few years would be the time to do it. So luckily we're going to be covering that on Comic Virgins next. So that might be a good preview to tie into what could potentially happen. And Natasha also says, so exists multiple TVA. That's not a confirmed thing. That's some theory that maybe the TVA that we met now is the same TVA, but their mind's been wiped because the timeline changed. Or yes, there is multiple. That's what we're going to have to wait for season 2. So Kirklin Patzer, what are you rating Loki season 1?
Yeah, so I definitely this was again just all these MCU shows. They're just so fun to watch and review them with you guys. I missed the first episode, completely passed out, but since then it's been all positive.
It's been a gas.
It's been a gas, and like there were so many moments in the show where I felt like a little off put of whether it was like the introduction of Sylvie, and like I just had my expectations of what I was wanting to see of like even just like black hair and just like more mannerism stuff. And then I just totally got won over by her. I forget the actress's name, but I thought she just did such a good job with the role. And she really made me like this version of Sylvie. I'll call her female Loki. And I want to see more of her. And I'm sure I will in season 2. She didn't get killed off or anything like that. So I'm really glad that
first scene. Oh,
I'm really glad that they stuck her around. I loved Owen Wilson. I just love those early moments of the show when it was just like a buddy cop show. You know, you got Owen Wilson and Tom Hiddleston just bantering together, and all of those moments were so good. I felt like something that kind of caught me off guard though was just like how much emotion was thrown into the show, specifically with like Loki, and I think it was even the first episode of just him like basically watching his own death, watching that moment with in front of the terrible green screen. But you have like Odin like just, you know, I love you my sons, that one line, and just
look at this.
Really humanizing the character of Loki, because
yes,
he started as a villain, and like he was a very bad guy. Like if you watch Avengers 1, like he is not a savable character.
This is right after
like he's just so hardcore.
Oh yeah,
like he's hardcore. And then
even Kang says at the table, he's like, "We're all villains here." You know, we've done bad things.
Another great line.
Yeah.
And I was just really impressed with the show. And I guess I got to mention all the different variations of Loki. I loved all that stuff. And
yeah,
so I might be kicking myself for this rating because I don't know if it'll be too low. I think I'm going to 9 out of 10 with this one. I believe I had WandaVision higher. And I hope I do, because I still do like that show more.
I hope I do.
Well, I always do this where I do like I finally got Letterboxd, so I can actually like track my ratings on things.
Hell like yeah! That. I was just looking at mine right now. I'm like, where does it rank in the MCU?
I think on Letterboxd though, you can only do it out of 5, right? You can't do it out of 10 rating.
No, but there's half stars.
What do you mean no? Like you can't do 10, or
no, you can't do 10, but there's half stars.
Yeah, half stars.
Some apps don't even have half stars. That's super annoying. Most theater apps don't. It's like, well, I'm not giving this a solid score, so I'm not rating it.
No, that's true. But like, just on my ratings, like oftentimes I'll like rate it and just be like super jazzed, and then I'll watch something else, and then I'll compare it to that and like it less or more. But like my number rating is just off from it, so I always hate when I do that. I got to start just actually like writing them down to track it. But I definitely still think I like WandaVision more, just because I really really love that sitcom stuff in the beginning of the
Yeah.
show. Not everyone liked it, but like Shay's watching WandaVision for the first time right now, so I'm watching it with her, and dude, that is gold. Like I am still laughing out loud at like the humor stuff. Like it just did so good. And
23 Emmy noms.
you got Elizabeth
Big
Olsen.
deal.
Like, come on
Oh,
now.
yeah.
So
She's as much as I love this show, no one had a moment like Elizabeth Olsen did. Still, she's still like the
No.
breakout. Like, not that she's been
yeah.
around for a while, but she's still like the breakout of the phase 4 right now. If I had to put out like one person as far as the GOAT, I still put her there. But there's some other little mini goats around. So
Mr. Annoying, I don't think I actually gave it a 6 out of 10. That's pretty crazy. But,
no, I don't think so. This is why Dylan hates the number system. He'd take you to task for that. But you know what?
Exactly.
It's fine. You know.
So yeah, I guess if I'm rating the shows, it would go WandaVision, Loki, Falcon, which isn't discrediting Falcon. I really like the show, but
yeah,
got to compare them.
Is that the same for you, Taylor? Do you have not the same because you have Loki at number 1, but is Falcon last for you?
I would. I mean, I would probably put it last. I really did like everything that was with WandaVision because it was just so unique. Like it was so different, and it just had. Again, like I'm a big fan of getting to like the magical stuff that they dived into, and I feel like it's more in line and connected with Loki to a degree, like with multiverse kind of stuff and like the magic that we're going to be diving into the future. And Marvel magic looks so cool on screen. It looks so cool. So like there's nothing any like shade against like Falcon Winter Soldier. Like I love like that kind of aesthetic that they go for with like the fighting on Earth, the guns, like the Born Ultimatum style kind of stuff, I guess you could say. So I think it's cool, but it's funny because that being like my primary like go-to in the MCU has kind of shifted more to again this kind of stuff, and I think that started probably around when the first Doctor Strange came out. I really liked it, and it just kind of like roped me in. So now I'm glad we're in full swing now because I think in general the MCU's drifted from that like more Metal of Man, like Iron Man theme and like Hulk to like the science to more of the magical multi-dimensional like I'm
that's
Loki,
gonna happen
Wanda.
once you introduce all those stuff, right? Like the Snap and Doctor Strange and now Blade. It's like you kind of can't go back. So yeah.
So I was just gonna say they did. I think Clay mentioned in the chat earlier, but they did mention Devil. I think Kang mentioned like something like Devil or something in his session there with the Loki.
Well, it was like you guys came to kill the devil, essentially. I think that was the line.
They keep mentioning Mephisto. It'll happen.
Natasha said, "Is this season 2 after Ant-Man?" Go back either on the YouTube video or the podcast version. We did a whole like subject on that, so that's already recorded. And then you also said, "I love the shows, but somehow they don't deliver like Daredevil, Punisher." Hey, different strokes for different folks. I could agree with you on Punisher or on Daredevil. We could definitely have a discussion of Daredevil hit some heights that I would say before this show, I would agree. I don't think Falcon or WandaVision hit the heights of Daredevil. I think this did, but in a much different way. Like Daredevil is this gritty crime drama and Loki's dealing with like alligator Loki, right? So very different, but for me, they are similar. But if you were to ask me like, what would I put above? I'd still put Daredevil above this because Daredevil is next to Watchmen, like the greatest comic book show of all time. But much like these guys were talking about with the shows, I think so. Now we're going to take a little break. We have What If coming up, but that's going to be, I think, a bit more just fun, and it's obviously animated, so that could still be great. But we suppose we still have Miss Marvel and Hawkeye coming out this year, but that's going to be more in the fall, so we're going to have a little break. But either way, I do have my ranking is Loki, WandaVision, and Falcon. WandaVision could have been higher if it wasn't for the back half of the season. Not just the boner, but you got Tyler Hayward and some other stuff in there. But I still really love that show, and that's been the biggest thing is like, I like to love all these shows to varying degrees. And if we never get any higher quality than these 3 shows, if this is kind of the average, I'm very happy with it. Do I not want a boner again? Yeah, sure. I don't need any more boners in my life. But other than that, like these 3 shows, Falcon, WandaVision, Loki, all something very different and all something that I've really enjoyed. And for just a debut for the last 6 months, man, I'm so excited for what's to come. She-Hulk, Moon Knight, Secret Invasion, all this stuff. Like, because now I know they're willing to go to multiple places. Kirkland, you had your hand up there.
Yeah, I saw Clay mention it early in the comments. I can't even remember if we touched upon it, but he stated, or he thinks, again, maybe I should double check so I'm not putting words in his mouth. But basically, like,
he loves Florence Pugh, and he thinks she's the greatest actress.
That
of
is
all
what
time.
he said, I think.
And he said he was just trolling on his Marvel Alliance review. So there you go.
Yes, that is what I wanted to shout out. As well as that, he said, like, do you think this breaking of the timeline is going to be a direct lead into What If, or is it going to just be its own separate entity?
I'm 50-50 on that, but if you have to put a gun in my head, I say yes, because it's just a smart setup for it. You know, the same way Brent has been saying, like, oh, we're not going to get a trailer till after Loki for Spider-Man. Could be very well right. They could reference something that happened in the show. So yeah, I think so. What If caused by Loki? Yeah, he brought that up again. Yeah, I think if you ask me yes or no, just on the dot, I'm in the yes camp. If you ask me percentage, I'm very 50-50, because it could just be the watcher just being like, hey, I've seen a lot of crazy shit, and here it is. You know, like, he doesn't have to be like, did you see Loki? Did you know when Sylvie killed Kang? Like, they might just skip all that, right? But they might use it in canon, because I will say, well, we might talk about this on newscast, but lots of like mini scoopers have been like saying that the show, not just about it having a season 2, but the show might have more effects on the MCU than we think. And we talked about that in the chat too. It's some broad, like, could we see some of these versions in the Multiverse of Madness? Like, could we see Captain Carter in there? So if they are planning on bringing some of the stuff to live action MCU, then yeah, I could see them doing that. Even if they say like, oh, an event caused this, and they show like an animated version of Sylvie doing this or something, I could see it. But I could also just see them skipping it over. It's who knows? Red Cyclone says Kang was too good with acting. Well, that's good. I hope that's a positive there. Mr. Annoying, hey, on the watch, I've seen a lot of crazy shit. Should be the real quote he says. Oh, I've been pitching Feige every day that's how a watch you should open up the show. I am the watcher, and I've seen a lot of crazy shit. But Red Cyclone brought, like what we talked about, Brent, will this, well, no matter what, Red Cyclone, will Spider-Man trailer release after the finale? Well, no matter what, yes, because the finales happen in the trailer. But do I think it's this week? No, I think they'll give it some chance. I do think I posed this question to Brent and Chris. I said, I wonder if Sony's kicking themselves, because I wonder if another movie does not have the same opening Black Widow does. If they go, man, that was maybe a mistake, because what if that's the movie up until Spider-Man that most people watch? You know, you could have got it in front of a lot of people's eyes, but yeah. I think they still, maybe it's going to be more August, September-ish. They'll pair it with Venom or Shang-Chi. So we'll see. But anyways, my overall rankings, I have maybe some minor issues. There's some CG of one episode. The CG in this episode look great, but there's one episode. Yeah, Renstar's not the greatest, but nothing that is like a huge major effects. I always say my score is a combination of critical analysis, but also just enjoyment. And yeah, like I was saying, if this is baseline MCU stuff, man, it's great. And this is the top dog. I think they really went for it. They hit a grand slam. And yeah, I'm giving this a big old 10 out of 10, and I haven't done that since Endgame. I loved it, and if I'm looking at my rankings right now, it might be in the top 5. If it's the top 5, my original top 5 is Endgame, Civil War, Black Panther, Infinity War, and Avengers. So that's me saying that it's better than Avengers. I mean, I think about it, but I think that's where it is. I could even put it higher to Infinity War, because I know people think that's the best one. I think it's outstanding, but I definitely love those. Those first 3 aren't changing. As I always say, Black Panther is the best MCU movie, but it's in the top 5 or near the top 5. It's definitely in the top 10. So I'm sorry, Captain America: Winter Soldier, you've been bumped out of the top 10. You had a good run for a while, but yeah, it's a top 10er for sure. Maybe a top 5er. Really enjoyed this. Cannot wait for season 2. Cannot wait to see the rest of the effects of these. And let's see, bro, if you have watched Black Widow, then tell me it's worth it, because if it's not released here, that Red Cyclone, I'm gonna say, to be honest, this is the first time you've been in our chat, so I don't know what you like or don't like. What I would recommend is you can go listen to our review, and we have 15 minutes of non-spoilers. So I would say, like, these guys say it's worth it, where I say maybe it's not, so that you can get some bit more effects. Amir says, where's Winter Soldier? No fucking idea where he'd be in this show. You know, he's just like hidden on Falcon's sister right now, you know? So, and Clay says it's at his number 7. So yeah, I don't know. Did you ever make your letterbox, Kirkland?
I'm in the process.
Oh, you're in the process? Yeah,
I'll probably post it once it's all done.
Yeah, Taylor, you got to get on that too, so you can start ranking them and stuff like that.
I got
so.
it. I got Letterboxd on here. I just never use it.
Well, now's the time. So maybe with Sung-Chi, we'll have a ranking special. Which plus, I have a end of the year idea that maybe a Golden Geeks per se for the MCU. I'm kind of thinking because we got so much MCU stuff that maybe it deserves its own little show. So stay tuned. I have some ideas. So keep up, guys. Gain a sub. Love you from India. Thank you very much, Red Cycle. And awesome. And like I said, whether it's YouTube or check out on podcast, Apple, Spotify, just go to our website and that has everywhere you can find us and whatnot. So thanks for checking out. Thank you to everyone that checked out tonight. Chat was popping off, had lots of fun answering questions. And thank you to everyone that's joined from every single episode. Like I said, we'll be back with these late night reviews for What If, and then Book of Boba Fett, Hawkeye, Miss Marvel. We'll be back for Shang-Chi. We'll be back for Eternals, Spider-Man, a whole bunch of stuff. So if you like what we did here, please subscribe all over. And thank you for tuning in. And I promise you, it'll not be boring.
Bye-bye.
See you later.
All right, hold on. I'm sorry. I tried to rule Earth. They'd be lucky to have you. I'm sorry about that thing with the Tesseract. I just couldn't help myself. I'm a trickster. Yes,